So welcome to community call number 3. You see there's a wild number of tabs in my computer, but it's fine. So everybody can see this? Is it chill?
Your stream?
Yeah.
You mean? Yes.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay,
Working
cool.
good.
I can't unfortunately see you, but I'm gonna try to enable sidecar here real quick, which makes more things happen. Technology is such a joy. So I'm just gonna start by saying I am so fucking sorry because of the video quality. Did everybody see the post-mortem that we did? We actually found out why. It's beyond everybody's control. They misconfigured some sort of connector that wasn't the thing, and it's Moloch running after us every day. Okay, so now I can see you guys here on the side, but you can still see my stream. Is that correct? Okay, so let's take this off the ground. Sorry to have this little hiccups in the beginning. It's just the way things go. Okay, so first let's talk about DAOist Lisbon, and I invite everybody to have their mics open, and we just want to collect a little bit of feedback on how you guys felt, what worked, what didn't work.
No. First, we want to say thank you.
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna segue to in general, there were some imperfect things, and we're still learning how to do these big scale events, but it was made possible because of a much larger number of sponsors this time, and they came in heavy with enough money for us to really bring people together, to challenge a little bit of the status quo of what a conference should look like in terms of having 8 workshop tracks. I think we actually got over like 40 unique experiences, which is like how I think conferences should be. It's a lot more one-to-one interaction than just watching, and not one person can come away from that experience with the same experience. This is the 4 people that brought this about. And this much more important list with much smaller names, it's everybody that volunteered to do so much. And a lot of the actual groundwork was done by volunteers on the day, from assembling tables to making sure that anything that broke, meanwhile, from getting COVID tests. I swabbed personally about like 35 noses. So this is like, it's the real deal of unglamorous event organizing, and I really, especially for the volunteers who show up at the day, who, like me, end up losing so much of the event and not being able to enjoy. And so just really take a minute to say thank you to these people.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate everyone.
Some of them are in here in the call, so this is really cool. Just as a quick reflection, we're just going to have a little bit of 10 minutes, so we don't, so probably not everybody's going to get to speak, because I see that we're already getting larger numbers of attendees at this call than I ever expect them to show up. But if you do have something to say, feel free. I'm going to put 10 minutes here and just set a 10-minute timer. Perfect. So yeah, what worked for you about the DAOist Lisbon? And I hope, like, for example, Travis wasn't there. Don't worry, this call is not going to be all about Lisbon. But even from far away, what worked for you and what could improve? We're recording this. This is going to be taken seriously, so just fire at us. And this is also open for Numa, Inga, and Guy to participate if they want.
I would like to say, so one thing that I liked about the DAOist, I really like the vibe, and I don't know, it just felt it was something special, because there were so many people, and I felt that everyone was eager to help, even the volunteers who had their shifts in the early morning and they're done, but people still wanted to help. And even there were some people who just came to the event and they were coming to me and they were asking, do you need any help? And so this was so good, and the fact that workshops were so hot, and the way how people organize themselves, because everyone could just abandon that construction and just say like, okay guys, the workshops are too hot, so we don't want to do that. But people organize themselves, and I'm just like, oh my god, finally.
I was just gonna mention that as well. I
people
think that was super cool because like we had these designated areas for the workshop, but it was just really too hot inside the area, so people just self-organized and went into the shadows and like completely took over the space, and that was really cool. This is very Daoist approach. Loved it.
So it's very nice when people not just consuming experiences, but also being part of these experiences. So there
the
is
Daoist as an open design space.
so there is more than one thing that I would like to improve. I mean, the video situation.
Of course.
Shame on us.
Never trust, always verify. Never trust, always verify, and have backup like for everything.
So and also, I mean, me as being a coordinator of volunteers, I would like to kind of like, I don't know, like have more moments with the whole team together, because I felt that like I kind of like missed that point of just having a conversation with everyone, not just being in a hustle all the time. So I'm done.
Anyone else want to share some impressions?
Well, I was from one of the unlucky one that could not be there in person, but I was enjoying the streaming. I mean, I really tried, but it was just done too late, everything. So I noticed that there were not too many people on the streaming, really very few. So I really appreciate that you did it, because, thinking about the number, even, I can see here all the apologies that the quality was not great. I can tell you whatever quality it was, just the opportunity to be there and get the experience, in spite of being unable to arrive to Lisbon, was actually fantastic. So in that sense, don't feel bad. I think you should feel fantastic, and this was just amazing. Even if there were like 12 or 18 people online, I think it was, for each and one of them, it was a really nice experience, and we highly appreciate your effort to do it, although it was not so easy, I'm sure. You had many other things to do other than streaming it for few people. So in that sense, it was great. If you let everyone that would like to go to the next event on time, it would be also fantastic. I noticed that most of these events are organized like, a week or two in advance or very little time. And some people have more busy schedule than others. So some coordination can be helpful for everyone, especially for you guys that need to organize it. To do everything in the last minute put you under major stress, which is just not needed.
Yeah, this event was actually organized about like in a decent amount of time. It had 6 weeks this time. And the problem is that the tickets sold out in seconds. And that's the thing. So we had also streaming wise, for the first one, we learned from Chewy this iPhone based setup it's very guerrilla, but it worked so much better than the promised 4K Blackmagic. We had basically 3 Blackmagic cameras. If you're into video, they're super, super fancy, but the output was shit. So it was all that I expected from Portuguese suppliers, and I told my prejudices to shut up, and I paid for it. I will be way more prejudiced from now on. You can count on that. But yeah, basically the brand of the camera means nothing if coordination fails, which is a beautiful beautiful lesson for all the people in the DAO space. So we still have a few moments in this round if we want to share something.
Yeah, as Privilege mentioned, I would like to highlight again like how the event was much more than a conference. But I would like to improve even more that to be like to turn the Daoist events really in space for sharing, like to have more like interactions place. Also like something that like maybe like even more like personal contact than just the workshops. Would love to see more of that in the coming events.
Yeah, something I've been reflecting on is, do we need to be a side event to big conferences, or should we be our large conference? Something in partnership or like MCon, I mean, having a multi-day thing so we don't have to cram everything into one day. Maybe it happens once a year and it's a big celebration of DAO culture. Or the other side of the reflection, which is 100% interaction-based, smaller events for people that are bought into the ecosystem, let's say with partnerships with the Panvala network or things like this. So there's this bigger, less curated giant thing, and then again, the possibility of smaller, highly curated things. And I'm not sure if it's both directions or if it's one direction, or if we should let people try according to their taste and desires in a decentralized way, which is what I'm kind of tending towards. Well, we don't have to spend full 10 minutes on this. Anybody else has any thoughts?
Anyways, guys, if you feel like talking now, I drop a link to, and if you liked something or didn't like something, please be honest. We really want your feedback.
Feel free to be anonymous
this
as well.
is the only way how we can. Yeah.
So one of the things that happened, maybe a good announcement to do, is that we officially moved like all core team and like side teams coordinations to Discord over the last couple of days. So we're slowly shutting down all the side Telegram groups, and so which means that this forum will be way more populated, and also it's way easier to peek into how it feels to get one of these things off the ground, because you're going to see all the little handshakes and exchanges and decisions. And we actually, for our team, we don't fight a lot, but also fights, I guess. Compared to most teams I've been part of my life, I think the DAOist teams hasn't ever had like a big fight, except when somebody doesn't press record. But except that one's in the past. So let's move forward. Let me see what I can do here. So this is the important one that I want to listen, because the design space for what the DAOist is and what it is becoming is open wide right now. And this is non-Lisbon specific. This is for the entire room. I just would really like to hear, what does the DAOist mean to you, and what you personally are willing to do about it. And I'll give this 10 more minutes, but if it gets really interesting and heated, we can actually extend it a little bit. I'll shut up now.
Yeah, please feel free to share your opinions.
This
is the only way how we can make it DAO. Otherwise, it's gonna be just a thing that run by a bunch of people.
So I'm not really sure what you're asking. What do you mean by the design space? What feedback are you looking for?
Well, in this case, it's not exactly for feedback, but in the design space, I actually would make more sense if for people who have been part of the conversation. So we're going toward the direction that we're going to build a mother DAO that can be shaped by a lot of the people who have participated in the events before, all the sponsors, the elders. There's a whole thing coming. And we've mapped the entire, let's say, action space of the project, which I can give you a little bit of a front run here in this Miro, if you're watching my stream. So these are all the initiatives, right? Da-da-da. And as you can see, events is just one tiny little part here. And there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of opportunity for actual paid engagements with this future organization that's going to be the DAOist. There's a raise effort going on right now. There's a ventures initiative. We own a bar. So basically, this is a thing that can be shared by everybody and be built collectively by everybody. But it's important. We were meaning to work together in this Miro, but there's problems with the subscription, that some stupid shit. And I couldn't open the board for collaborators today, which is really sad. But we then did the next best thing, which is having this conversation of understanding what it means to you, what part of it, what part of the meme feels pulsating to you personally, and how much would you be willing to do about it, so we can know how to get you involved or not getting involved in the future. So we have many more lurkers than enthusiasts right now.
Well, I feel, yeah, please do.
Sorry. So I wanted to start off with a caveat. Like, I have not been to either of the DAOist events in person, but what the DAOist is doing, I think, is amazing, and I think it has a lot of potential to like show more people what DAOs are and what they can be. So one thing that Felipe said earlier in the call, where there's these periodic, well-curated events that are paired with more frequent, free-flowing, do what you want to do kind of events. That's what has strongly resonated with me from the beginning. I think in-person connection is important, but also having some opportunity to do things in a virtual, remote-friendly kind of way. If that ends up being what the DAOist wants to take on, like, that's what really excites me personally.
Yeah, and in our personal conversation, Iran, I'm still trying to build the human firepower to actually go co-create DAO Rush Week with you. But like, we've been so under the weather, it's not even funny, you know?
I totally get it. That's why I've been waiting until the Lisbon event is over to even talk about it again. But now that it's over, if there's an opportunity,
Not forgotten. Let me run here right now and add to the Miro the digital events and DAO Rush Week.
Oh, I actually remember that conversation from our previous community call.
Good to know that you remember, because it happened.
I remember things.
So, any other things we can harvest, especially from our DAO OGs here in the room, or for example, Ben, who we had sort of like a very productive interaction at the DAOist that started as a conflict and developed to a collaboration. He's here as Hot Kartoffel, which is a great name, by the way. I didn't expect anything less. Just Arshana, who's like our most recent team member, joiner. Remember, this is being recorded. This will help seed whatever we build from here.
I could say something.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I have a tendency to do that. I've been invited to explore this space through an invitation into this elders circle, and I'm not convinced I totally understand what that means yet. But to the extent that I understand that it's a circle that's attempting to build off of some of the greatest successes and failures of previous DAOs experiments. I think that's a very powerful philosophical idea for taking a slow and long now approach to DAO architecture and cultural design. I'm also very, very keen to learn more and perhaps be part of the conversation about the embassies, the physical meat space embassies, or for how I was introduced to it was as a metaverse embassy between the virtual communities that are being formed here and the physical. For those of you that don't know me, which I think is almost everyone in this channel, I'm an artist and a philosopher. And before I joined the DAO space, I was making preparations to start my own physical art residency. And I'm seeing now that there's a lot of overlap between both the economic models, cultural models, and physical infrastructure for how art residencies are set up, and how some of those learnings might be able to be successfully migrated, I guess, into this specific community, and at least to this realm of consideration. There's other conversations that I'm having with other DAOists, also people in Raid Guild and Metagamma Delta and Metagame, and also I'm a member of Moloch DAO, about attempts to physically instantiate, to create spaces that facilitate these conversations IRL, I guess, so to speak. So just want to express my enthusiasm for anything and everything along any of those lines.
So I don't know if everybody knows what an Earthship is, but it's the main reason I have to be very jealous of Travis, because he lives in one. I don't know if he built it, but this is an Earthship, and it's the type of home that takes
currently building it.
Takes incredible advantage of its surroundings for extreme energy efficiency, comfort, life-sustaining systems, micro agriculture indoors. It's a beautiful thing. You can lose many hours on YouTube, as I have, studying Earthships. And if you like pounding Earth, there might be one in your future, I guess. A lot of pounding. I have this reflex of muting myself. Okay, let's go to the presentation real quick. So yeah, basically this is what I'm really curious to know is, what do you want to do about the DAOist? And it might be something that I haven't thought of and it's not in the current plan, but if you're willing to do it and lead it, we want to slow, week by week, create space for more and more dreams inside it, and use the sort of general sensation of legitimacy that the DAOist has been getting, which is pretty surprising and pretty wide, to actually support those visions and bring them about. So don't miss the opportunity of telling me now. Like, for example, Niran, wanting this more wide support to run the Rush Weeks, which is a flag that it's not light, it's a heavy flag. He's been carrying it for like a year and a half now or something. And I think he deserves the help.
I've heard that John would like to share.
Yeah, I'm not sure if can you guys hear me? Because I had some problems with speakers. Was that good?
We can hear you.
Cool. Nice. Hi everyone. Yeah, so thank you so much for the DAOist experience last week. I joined as a volunteer and had such great conversations, and the dinner conversation that evening was epic. Just being able to chat Web3 with people who really understand it, and then the next day meeting everybody and seeing all of the people in the high caliber stuff was just awesome. Yeah, I think the vibe of the DAOist is really good. I think it inhabits a really nice space within the ecosystem, and has a real good chance to influence the evolution of the space. Obviously, a lot of things are happening in a lot of different places all at once, and there's a lot of stuff to do. But yeah, I think the whole embassy kind of side of things is great as well. And so, it's interesting maybe to explore the online interactions and the online kind of round tables or discussions, and to publish those and to see if some traction can be got for more regular kind of interactions. Because like I said, the kind of dinner conversation I had with those people was really cool, and who knows what kind of stuff comes out of it. So even if like a subject of conversation or an idea or the question you're raising now about where should it all go, if there are places and talks regularly where people can share stuff, then maybe some stuff will bubble up out of it, and maybe people will make some decisions around that vision. I mean, the only other thing I could say, I'm part of this thing called the Entrepreneurs Organization, and we just did like a 5-year vision planning in Lisbon, actually, in the Palacio Pestana, just over the past couple of days. And yeah, it's interesting how it takes at least a couple of days of people concentrated kind of talking together, and then kind of trying to narrow things down a little bit before, that's what happened. We took 2 days. And then on the final day, we started to all say, okay, this is what we think it should be, put it all together, and everyone just made one sentence about where we see it being in 5 years. And we built that kind of part of it. And then once we've got that vision real clear for everybody, then we can start to work back and find all of the different tasks and see the different ways of getting involved. That's all I got to say about that.
Cool. I try to harvest the general gist of it. There's one actual partnership that's already real that I'm working at, which is the UCI publishing. So basically, UCI is the European Union Crypto Initiative, led by Florian Glatz, Marina Markazic, and Simone Poirot, I think are their names. And they're working on influencing and supporting the process of creating DAO and DeFi legislation in Europe. they're quite bearish on the way the direction things are going. And within conversations that we had at the DAOist, we realized that one of the most important things we can do is create the most seductive communications assets that will influence these legislators and policy creators when they actually Google the subject. So to be the most findable and delectable source of truth for these people. And they were looking for designers, and they have funds, and they wanted to start the whole thing from scratch. And I was like, how about we do this as a partnership under the DAOist and as part of the launching campaign of Dawn, right? So this is something I think it's interesting. Let me mute. Okay. It's an interesting thing to show today as well, which is how the design of Dawn is coming along, and grab some of your opinions. But if you guys want to share some more ideas, and as you can see, I'm harvesting them in the stream. We're open to listen to everybody. There's no stupid ideas. It's completely fine. Shoot from the hip.
So let me share with you some ideas. I'm coming from a more traditional area, and I'm spending most of the time in academia and not so much in entrepreneurship. This was my previous career to some degree. So I start looking at DAOs pretty much from startups, but I see that they have much potential in a much more, I would say, traditional environment. And it starts with multiple cooperative organizations that I work with around. And right now, they really don't have any tools to scale up. And this can be one amazing way for them to totally change their orientation. And also, this can become a very interesting alternative to failing large-scale organizations. So there are a lot of alternatives in the very conservative world to apply DAO organization principles to drive change and to drive innovation in the way people organize and deliver value, especially contribute to one another and create their communities alive and kicking. So this is just some few ideas that I'm playing with right now, and I can happy to share more at one opportunity.
Can I quickly comment here? It's
Yes.
Mitchell, your name, right?
Michelle.
So Mitchell. So nice to meet you. Really nice that you coming from this background. And right now, we just got into the Mirror publishing platform. It's like a Web3 publishing platform, and we think to use this platform as a way to create like high quality knowledge, not just content, knowledge. So and having this background, if you feel like sharing something, writing something, just hit us, and I think it's amazing to co-create knowledge on this topic, like something deeper. So thank you so much for sharing this.
Sure. It's a mirror.
Yeah, it's called Mirror.
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah.
I saw it.
Nice, amazing.
So Mirror was originally a writing platform, but it has grown a lot to allow you to do many other things, from publishing NFTs to doing crowdfundings and things like this. It's also a great way to get a co-op off the ground if you want. I don't think we at the moment have the bandwidth to actually do organizational onboarding for specific organizations. It's something I did a lot when my salary is coming from DAOstack, because in the beginning of the DAO space, the mentality was having the DAO platforms were fighting for each other, with each other, like DAOstack, Aragon, blah, blah, blah. And the mentality is having your communications and business development teams onboarding organization per organization per organization. And I watched so many of these experiments fail. And the reason why they failed, I think, is because the desire, the leadership within that organization, or someone, let's not say leadership, the curiosity within that organization has to come from the organization to push through the developmental learning barrier it is still to use DAOs. So the way we are positioning the DAOists support in this sort of situation is for people that have at least reached level 1 doing capacity. But that's mostly because we have a throughput bottleneck. If we start opening conversation with everybody that wants to become a DAO, it would probably stop everything that we're doing at the moment. But that doesn't stop you or anyone within our ecosystem to create sort of a support group, SWAT team, onboard everyone kind of initiative. And I'd like to support that as well.
Hey, this is Theo. Actually, just on your point, Felipe, I was just about to propose exactly that. So I totally see your argument that this is out of scope, but I would really like to see the DAOist as sort of an industry-wide initiative to onboard newbies, or at least to give them a neutral space to exchange thoughts and just get used to the style of working in a DAO, which is very different, of course, from other industries. Just like when we onboard people in MetaDAO or with Colony, like we always have so many people who are just new and have so many cultural related questions, and you know that from DAOstack too. And again, I know that's out of scope these days, but I wonder, this is a public good problem, right? Every single DAO has these onboarding challenges. So I'm sure there'll be, willingness to contribute from multiple DAOs, and perhaps the DAOs can be kind of a safe space for newbies to just talk to another and maybe get some resources to make sense of working in a DAO.
Yeah, I'm trying to see where this would fit in the master scheme.
Yeah, I mean, it can also be something for the roadmap in a couple of months, right?
Yeah, but also another thing that I learned in my life, anything that happens in a couple of months starts today, and it starts with somebody saying, I want to own it. So I'm just going to bring this to community engineering, and I am going to transform it into onboarding support. So for example, the component that I'm willing to own personally within the DAOist framework, and that's always what we should talk about. It's like what we want to do as humans. So what calls strongly to me is helping people that work for a DAO understand that working for a DAO is not enough. So the formation of a DAOist is somebody who has DAO-verse-wide ecosystemic awareness. And this is something that I personally care about, because the froth land of leaving legacy world and becoming the DAOist of one DAO is still like a crazy space. But that being said, I have nothing against this being done, and then harvesting the learnings of that, and then creating that into content that can be multiplied. Like I already have a curricula that is actually many small lessons that get really granular. Like for example, what is a handshake, how to minimize them, and why handshakes kill coordination. How to be aware of the current coordination muscle power throughput of your organization and schedule accordingly. Right? We talk a lot about DAO treasury management, but I think we should talk more about DAO attention management and things like this. So I do have this curriculum in my head, and I can't wait for the setup of the project to be done so I can actually go back to my role of like development practitioner, educator, quote unquote, organizer, whatever. And right now I'm doing a lot of admin, a lot of pitching, and a lot of convincing, and a lot of politics, which is not necessarily my nature. But so be it. Come what may. Any other ideas?
I want to ask like everyone that is here a question. Maybe should we have like hashtag contributor, like a contribute channel in here, so like everyone like can think with the time and like feel more comfortable to just write in there like how they would like to contribute? Does everyone here feel aligned with this idea?
I think it's a good
you
thing.
should just go and do it. Yeah, just go and do it. Just
Okay.
I can create. I can share a Google Doc, because I created a small questionnaire for the people who would like to volunteer and co-create events with us. But it was like mostly like I wanted to find this kind of people, but also like there can be like we can have like more different flows.
Yeah, by the way,
And maybe
I
it
can
will
be
be like
more,
the first point,
can
and
be
then
more
we just
direct
like,
about it. Tell if you have people that you want to get them used to DAOs, for example. One of good things that we could make use of is more people that are willing to volunteer a few hours a week or a month to be part of this like group that is directed or working in co-direction with the core team, and people that would be comfortable with the idea of retroactive compensation, right? Because we're still doing the raise, and doing the raise comes with its own workload, and also making the raise strategy neutral and beautiful and legitimate is taking quite some time, which takes away from me doing the work that we all want to do. So, but we've mapped the work. So if there's anybody who's willing to come play or wants to learn through working and then being retroactively compensated by after we have risen. Risen is cooler to say than raise. But the idea is there is all of these main tasks, and the tasks that are put here, they are sort of same sized, and they would be, you would sort of form your relevance to the project by choosing the ownership of certain areas. And if you choose above a certain threshold, which I'm thinking 6 to 7 of these, which would equate to more or less a full-time job, you earn a core team token, and the core team token would earn you a salary. That's kind of the direction that this is going. So core team is differently than other projects where core team is something that you did in the past and stays with you forever. Core team at the DAOist would be a position that you can choose or not to hold, and that the DAO could give or take away from you. Okay, so this actually is a good segue, since the ideas are slowing down, a good segue for me to show a little bit of the DAO design. Are we okay if I move on?
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, most of you have seen this before. I would like us to have more conversations about it, especially because there's a lot of work being done at the calculation of the, let me see if this is showable. Okay, yeah, this too undefined. I don't want to be held, but there's the reputation and distribution, not reputation, but governance distribution scheme here coming together. Yeah, maybe for next week. But the DAO itself looks like this. So this doesn't exist yet. This is nowhere to be found. It needs a lot of conversations to figure out how this is going to work, but it's a very token engineering sort of direction. What we will have day one of this DAO is core team. We're still deciding if it's 10 or 15 spots. Then you have the elders, who are these invitation creatures, who are like Travis is one of them. We only have sent 10 invitations out at the moment, and there were heated debates on who these 10 people should be. We might send out a few more invitations, but the idea is that at least more than half of these people would be chosen and onboarded as DAO, right? So the first days of the DAO, you're going to have the core team, which is us plus whoever self-defines that they want to own a big piece of that work pie that I showed. Then elders, and these are early event sponsors from the past, like these 2 first events, and then the ones that decide to buy within the raise. And these are very expensive slots. The prices are still being decided, and they're basically global sponsorships that will give governance rights, but they also give access rights and other perks, including access to the communications work that the core team is doing. Does this make sense? Does anybody have objections, or any of this is weird? Or
so just to clarify, so those last 2 slots, the ministry and the ambassador, those are people who are going to basically fund the DAOist. They're going to get tokens, but those are the types of people who sponsored the previous events that have happened so far. Is that the idea?
Exactly. They are. So I'm working directly with Peter personally, not with 1KX, in defining this raise strategy. But yeah, no VCs at this moment, mostly decentralized organizations and people like taking similar risks to us, basically. And basically the type of organization we want to serve should be the type of organization that governs us, which makes sense to me. And also, even though there were jokes on that list, you also need to be highly aligned with decentralization and have a spotless reputation to sponsor, which I think anybody has any issues with. I don't know, right? So basically, the way it works, these numbers are not final, neither the governance power nor the amounts. There's a bunch of tokenomic calculations being done. It's a little bit more complicated. Super liquid ERC that you can send around. It's the whole idea of the historian mindset. These NFTs, they accrue historical relevance more than economical relevance. So there's different membership accesses and privileges and duties that you can give to these 721s or 1155s in the case. Basically, the organization, it's not a person that would fund us, receives this vanity badge that they can keep at their organizational wallet, but then they receive a certain delegate tokens that they can and need to distribute to different stakeholders within the organization. Or they can choose to, let's say, combine them at one wallet, but there's sort of a tax for this. The idea is not to have too much governance power centralized in any one wallet. But yeah, people can still coordinate, but at least you exact a coordination tax on them. Does that make sense? And you can treat this with the mentality of like a seed raise, which is a small pre-raise before we together create the economical solutions for the entire project. That's why the DAO is called Dawn. It's one of possible DAOs. It will be the mother DAO. It's the early morning light. Is this exciting to people? Like, this is one of the quietest community calls I've ever been in my life. I'm so sorry. Is my flu too annoying? Should I turn the camera on and like do some dance? I don't know.
No, everyone is just listening carefully, absorbing the information.
And I want to know, like, who would be excited to see this coordination experiment take place, and how would you like to use it? Do you see any attack vectors here? Seeing if this is going to go terribly wrong, how do you see this going? That kind of question.
I actually have a question. So if there are, for example, 10 or 15 core tokens, and it means that the core team will be limited by this amount of people. And if, for example, the DAOist grows and it will be like more things to do and more coordination to do, and does it mean that it will be still on the shoulders of these people or other people?
That's the beauty of DAOs. Beauty of DAOs. You will go to the DAO as Inga, personally, holding a core token, and you're going to write a proposal. Say, I think we should mint 10 more core tokens. And then everybody's going to vote, and if it passes, it becomes a canonical political decision made legitimately by the organization. And therefore, tokens get minted. Either automatically, if we are so lucky to have dev power to use Zodiac to do all these things, or because there will be a multi-sig that can do multi-calls to the contract, and so we will be able to do this completely trustlessly. But most likely, day one, this won't be so. Day one, there will be the ring of delegation with core team members operating the multi-sig, but the goal is to go all the way to using this new technology that showed up with Zodiac and stuff. Everybody's still trying to figure out. But don't hold my word for it, because we're working with BitTrees, we're working with Curve Labs, designing all these things in the background right now. But the goal right now is just to have the core contract, the elder contract, and actually get these things out and then test it via Snapshot and Zodiac, how we can actually, as a DAO, mint the elder tokens, which is, it's enough of a revolutionary experience actually at this moment. So yeah, for true like DAO mechanic nerds, this is also a cool like little adventure.
Yes, I guess to see the parts where people can slot in, I guess maybe having a little look at the kind of roadmap either before this or afterwards, because at the moment there's lots of projects there, but is it all at once, or is it like building up all of those, or are there some key stages like roadmap wise, like what are you?
Yeah, I'm very, very sad to announce, but every board already exists. Nothing of it is completely fictional, except the things that we put down in conversation now. Right? So the merch exists, and all we need to do now is organize it into a shop and create a revenue stream out of this. The index is at work. There's people from Prime DAO that just jumped and started creating a DAO index that they want to call it the DAO Revolution Index. They want to do it under the DAOist and give the fees to the project. The art things already kind of exist. I have a conversation where I'm learning PFPs, and I want to do a project called the Diplomats. The Buy My Process thing is also happening. I'm going to start doing this with the label for the Moloch, the Blood of Moloch, which is a beer that will be launched by the Metacartel ecosystem. So then you're going to be able to maybe like buy the process shots of the work, and then everyone that bought process shots of the work funded the work and then get a chance at the final auction. So it's a very limited auction for the supporters who actually cared about the work. And while the work is happening, you can actually influence where it's going, give feedback, etc. So these ideas exist, but they're all at baby stage. And the only thing that decides what gets done first is human attention. I'm not going to be the tyrant. It's going to tell all the things. I'm right now focusing at the very homeworky, unglamorous part of making sure that we have some funds so people don't have to work completely out of dry desire, and making sure that we have the contracts, and then we have maybe a legal entity that we're actually trying to get a foundation in Switzerland going, but we don't know how that's going to relate to the DAOist, but at least we have some legal personhood. Making sure we find the operation accounting people, like the accounting for the 2 events is actually pretty well done. Like if anybody ever wants to actually audit how that was the 2 first events, how we spent the money, it's going to be completely visible, but we don't like, it's not interesting. Nobody gives a shit. I'm not going to go over here and make but after you have like a core token, it's going to be after a gated control, and you can go actually check and see everything. So basically what we're building is decentralization etiquette for a large scale political cultural organization that is owned by everybody. And these early days are not the coolest, and I can't wait until it actually gets like to the fun part. So I hope this sounds interesting.
There's loads of projects there, but it also sounds like you want help with lots of these things, plus anything else which is going to start bringing people into the ecosystem, right? Because the more people that are in, the more people that are going to do stuff. So is that the main thing here? Is the main thing shipping products, or because that'll bring people in, or is it trying to bring more people in as well? Like
I think in the order in my head, actually creating the first experiments of physical permanent spaces that are supported, funded, and run by DAOs. In the case, the bar and the embassy, their related events, which would then have the sort of onboarding events that Tel is talking about. Within my political roadmap that the DAO might change or ignore is actually having a hand in having a lot of Portuguese people acquire jobs and income, so we can have an outsized leverage in this jurisdiction and maintain Portugal as a free port city for crypto people. And that's kind of the goal of year 1 of the DAOist. And whatever we can do in terms of these initiatives, it's going to be based on rational understanding of the traction they get and the ecosystemic relevance that they have, with the main goal that we have a functional, sustainable organization that is doing its goal. Which I think with the art projects and the businesses, it won't be that impossible to do. You guys are so quiet. Nobody thinks I'm an idiot. Tell me why I'm wrong.
So
I'm just lurking, or sorry. Go ahead.
Like the biggest question mark I have, I think, for the governance of the thing, like I've never seen a event series governed by the sponsors. Like it's usually some sort of either in the crypto space, some sort of foundation or company that controls it and ends up being sponsored and it gets funded that way, or just yeah, like it just that's the part that I'm wondering how it'll work in practice. But like I'm interested to see it.
Yeah, the event series itself wouldn't be completely governed by the sponsors. It's still to be understood how much of this war chest will be transferred into the DAO. So there's a big area of experiment around this, and we would make it very clear to funders what they're doing. But it is planned as a progressive decentralization.
Sounds good to me.
I have a very basic question. So first of all, I came late in the call. I didn't plan on being here, but another call got canceled. So actually, I might need to join it 7 minutes. So I'm gonna be the annoying one. Ask a question right before leaving. Like, what exactly is the DAOist? And it's just like it's still hard for me to define with what I know and looking at the website. And so it's a very simple question. Maybe no one else is gonna benefit from the answer. Except me. So I don't know who's best place to answer this.
Yeah, so avoiding the philosophical epistemological challenges I can make to actually defining what anything is. It's this thing that I'm showing in the, and it's the pipe dream of 4 people inside an organization that started trying to make one event, and then shit went wild, and now we're sharing that dream with more and more people and leaving little seeds of ideas and seeing what sticks. It's mostly how other DAOs were born too. Like, this is not an uncommon pattern to the space.
And
So
what
it's like, it's something for me, something for you, something for these vectors of
what
like,
would be
let's
something
call
that
them-
is outside? What would be like outside of the DAOist? Because it's the scope looks like so big right now, and I mean I think like to have people contribute, they need to know in which scope they can contribute, and if they're still like going to follow whatever values the DAOist is aiming for. So yeah, for me, like, I mean, I usually contribute to plenty of projects. I just like arrive super late in this call again. Sorry to just like arrive and ask super basic question. But yeah, it's hard for me. It would be hard for me to know like what scope is in the DAOist and what scope is outside of it. And so this would be a thing preventing me to try to do something.
The problem is if whatever I tell you now is just what I think, and if you're willing to listen to it that way, it's fine.
Okay.
But for me, what's within scope is becoming a meta coordination machine for the entire DAOverse working as a sentient political being. And politics is not just bribing politicians. It's telling stories of a way to live a life. So the DAOist is a coordination machine that builds narratives of successful decentralized lifestyles. And this needs a certain amount of scope. And there's the scope that was not born because of my vision. Sat down one day and I was like, oh, I have a plan to change the world. The scope is born out of the interests of all the people that are currently here. And it will flourish, blossom, or die according to the nourishment, the human attention that it receives. So it's normal for an early stage project to be at the generation of alternative stage and from a design thinking sort of point of view. And half of this might die or not, you know? So it's, if it helps you, if I give you further definition, I will. But I would rather interview you for an hour and lie to you because I want you to be part of the project, because the definition doesn't actually. Does that make sense?
But it's already helpful. So it does answer already my question. And yeah, and
awesome.
yeah,
because I was trying to do it fast before
like,
make you late.
Yeah,
I was trying to be like fast and
I have
precise.
other questions, but they're going to be for some other time, I think.
But you're welcome to hit me up, and these calls are going to happen more often.
All good.
And you're based in Berlin, right?
Lisbon right now. Let's see.
Cool. So let's go have a beer and you can ask all the questions. Let's go to Plantasia someday.
Could you just run through a high level of the community?
So guys, we're at the top of the hour. We don't have to use the full hour. Does anybody feel dissatisfied with what they learned? Do they feel that we repeated each other too much than the last call, or did it help to come to further definition? And what should we focus on next week? I was thinking of focusing on giving concrete directions on what priorities to me and where I need help, and helping onboard people. Would that work for you guys?
Yeah, I would say I have no idea about like the particular things that you need help with. So like I'm very interested in learning how I can help you rather than just glomming onto what you're doing, which is also what I want to do because I like what's happening and I want to be on the ship.
Awesome. So this next week is, at least on my side, very dedicated to doing this delicate guesswork of how many tokens for how much money for what organization, which is something that we can't really do in a completely decentralized way, or else it would take 17 years. If I survive this, we're going to have conversations with some very cool organizations starting tomorrow, Wednesday. I hope that they will be ruthless in their feedback and I will learn one thing or another, and I'll come maybe more focused, but also a little bit more heartbroken, which is it's a great place for me. My personality really knows how to grow from heartbreak. It's all I ever had. So I hope you guys had some fun and that it's starting to come together as a larger, more interesting vision than an event series. And we have this whole like fertile ecosystem of creativity happening. And then when we do get together in an event, it has like a deeper, bigger reason for us to be there. And don't forget events, because I'm going to really need help with it. And I'm willing to ship people across the world so I don't have to suffer as much as I did in the 2 first versions. Just saying.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Craig can stop recording now.
Yes.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks for coming. You guys are too quiet. I'm going to have to
Yeah.
strategy, but ciao.
Yeah, feel free to share our ideas at the chat and everywhere else. And there's the radios. Let's chill them.